What's up, everybody? We are here to talk about automation today, and we're going to dive into 3 tips on how you can automate decision making, automate some tasks in your life that require no coding or technical knowledge. This is a very low tech take on automation. Before we do that, I'm Jake. I have Andre here. You're at the Amplified Action Podcast. We're going to dive right into it. The first point that we want to cover is where you start. How do you identify what to automate in the first place? That is the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're spending time automating the right things, because you don't want to waste time automating something that isn't very high leverage. So with that, Andre, do you have any thoughts to kick us off here on that?
Uh, the the first thing I'm going to do is pick you apart just a tiny bit here.
Yeah,
Uh, the
go for it.
the I think we should be automating all the things that are low leverage so that we can actually focus our brain power on the high leverage stuff. So the way I approach automation for my decision making is how can I get through all of the lowest leverage tasks as quickly as possible so I can be focusing my intelligent work energy on the things that actually matter. So automation for me is pulling all of the tasks that don't matter that much out of the queue as quickly as possible as a matter of course.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That is exactly the way to look at it. It's ironic when we say high leverage in this context, because high leverage things that are high leverage to automate are actually probably like exactly what you said, the low leverage things in your life. They're the time sucks, the things that you have to keep doing that take time away from other activities that actually require more like human power thinking. We all have these tasks that just show up on our to-do list. They're these little maintenance things, and we don't like doing them. It's not requiring the brain power. It's not really, it's something that potentially a robot could do, or at the very least, something that we could do more efficiently, so we're not spending as much time as we do on it. And the way that I figure out, so I'm an automation nerd. The way that I figure out what I am going to focus on automating is through time tracking. So just by at least briefly tracking your time over a longer period of time, you can go back and look at all that data and say, okay, where is my time going? And then you start to pick at, can I automate this? Or how could, maybe a better way to say it, because not everything is technically like automation where we're talking about I'm writing a program or I'm using some app to do it, but how can I make this more simple? How can I remove friction so that I can get this task done more efficiently?
Yeah, automate your decision making so you're not just sit there not doing the wrong thing or doing nothing, which is very common. When you have a lot of things to do, sitting there and doing nothing is a very common way to react, and we need to avoid doing that whenever possible. You talk about tracking your time. I actually have a slightly different way that I go about it. I track my how I feel, um, which sounds a little bit more woo woo than it is. I just keep track of when I'm feeling frustrated. I keep track of the things that I don't feel like confronting. And those are the things that need some systems breakdown love. Make that more automatic, outsource it whenever possible. That's not always possible. Um, and just what I've started doing to make it so that I attack those things that cause me like frustration or anxiety is that I attach something positive to it, either something positive to the end of it as a reward or something positive as a part of the task. Like for instance, I hate doing the dishes with a burning passion. That's a low leverage thing. I don't want to do it right now. My kid's too small. I can't make the kid do it, so I have to do it. Right. And thank goodness I have a dishwasher, or else I would just be living on paper plates. But what I started doing was I pop on headphones and I listen to my favorite podcast, and it makes it significantly better, and it turns it into something that's at least have has some kind of leverage to it. At least I'm learning something, right? So yeah, just figure out a way to reframe the activity, track your emotions. If you don't feel like tracking everything with time, you'll definitely get a lot out of like tracking with your time. That's even better data. But I'm not quite as good as Jake about that. I just track what are the things that I'm avoiding. When am I feeling frustrated? Let me trace that back. Okay, now let me attack it.
That's an awesome strategy. And I probably do a little bit of that too, although you're making me rethink a little bit. And I should probably be attaching more of that feeling component to even the times too, right? It's like when if you combine these two things, like super powerful. But just tracking time, like just noting when you're frustrated, even just through a daily journaling activity, right? Like at the end of the day, just be like, how'd the day go? What did I enjoy? What did I not enjoy? That's going to give you a ton of good data, even if it's not attached to time. Time is like maybe one step up from that, but like if you don't have any tracking system going on in your life, like the what you just outlined, I think it's a perfect place to start. Let's move on to the second topic we want to talk about, which is actual more practical strategies and how do we automate things. And as I mentioned, we're kind of leaning into low tech here. Of course, there's lots of really high tech solutions and how you can automate things. We have AI. AI is only going to get more powerful. There's all sorts of apps out there like Ifit or Zapier that connect different platforms together, so you can, receive an email and it turns it into this and puts it into the spreadsheet. And I think those are all awesome, absolutely awesome things that you can do to help automate daily tasks. Uh, but there's many things in there that we just can't automate, or maybe we don't have the tools or the money to subscribe and lean into these technologies. So some really low tech strategies that you can do. The first thing I want to touch on is just batching tasks. So you can almost think about this as like automating your mindset, right? Is like getting something in the right mode and then batch those type of tasks together, especially if they're low leverage activities and stuff you just need to get to. It's going to speed them up instead of like sprinkling them throughout your day.
I like to do that on a weekly basis. Actually, the ta- uh, task batching of things that are very low leverage. The most common one that we can point to is chores on Sunday or whatever. That's I kind of grew up with you did your chores on Sunday to prepare for the week, right? So I do something similar, but it's not every week because it's just me in my house right now. Like I don't have like a huge amount of people. It's just me and my kid. So every 2 or 3 weeks, I do like a whole bunch of chores in like a 3 4 hour block, and then that's it. I don't have to spend much more time on it than that. And that's just something very simple that you can implement. And don't be like Sunday is my day of cleaning. I promise you, it does not take you a whole day to clean. It does not take you a whole day. Like maybe it would take you a whole day if you were also doing heavy duty landscaping outside at the same time. But even then, I still don't think it would take a whole day. It'd probably be 5 6 hours. So just set some deadlines and some boundaries on the time blocks too. And it doesn't have to be a daily thing. Everybody likes to think in daily. It doesn't have to be daily. Just think in time periods and block things appropriately.
Agreed. Yeah, there's something. I mean, there's such simplicity in like doing something every single day and having this routine, but it's not always the most efficient thing. It's like, it's like working out. It's like, yeah, you should work out every day. You know what? I'm not a pro athlete. Like my goal is to maintain a level of health in my life, and that does not require me working out every single day for an hour or whatever it is. So you run the risk of like, well, I'm not forming this daily habit, this ritual that I do. But that's where like putting something on the calendar, planning your week, being very conscious about where you're going to spend your time and premeditating that plays such a huge role. So I don't sit there and I'm like, well, maybe I'll work out tomorrow if I feel like it was. No, I have a schedule like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like whatever it is. Like I still show up and I do it and I stick to that. And the way that you can start to automate that is through a calendar. Like it's that simple. Like put the thing on the calendar, set a reminder on your phone, go do the thing. And if it doesn't work, which it does all the time, like I live off my calendar. So I often will end up finding repeating, and I'm not like scheduling a meeting, I'm just time blocking it for myself. Like I'm going to do it this at this time. If I find myself ignoring that over time, that's a good sign that, okay, like something's off here. There's a little bit of extra friction that I need to dig in and figure out how to remove that friction. Maybe it could be uh, task batching, or whatever it is, like whatever tool you go to make that task easier to show up for, because it's not just because you put it on your calendar doesn't mean you're going to actually do it. I guess that's
Yeah,
what I'm trying to
exactly.
say.
Yeah, you have to actually be doing it. And if you're not, and you have all of this infrastructure pointing you to do it, and you're still not doing it, then you need to rethink something. And the first place I go is outsourcing to others. Now I like, man, I'm gonna sound like such a lazy bastard on this particular episode, but I also hate landscaping. So I'll hire that out. Like I remember having to do spring pruning, and then I was like, oh, it's fall now. I just put it off the whole friggin' year, right? So if you're having huge amounts of friction or you don't want to do it, then you need to maybe spend more, do a shift of overtime or something, and then outsource whatever it is that you don't want to confront. And that's not a failure. That's just you want to do something else. Respect that for yourself. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There are some non-negotiables, but I guarantee you that landscaping and being willing to do dishes is those are not non-negotiables. You can figure out a way to outsource that if you really think about it.
Yeah, money can be a tool when it comes to that. Is like, what's your skill set? Where are you making money? And then is what's your hourly rate? You know what I mean? If you can make a higher hourly rate doing something else than doing landscaping, then pay somebody to do landscape. Although landscaping is crazy expensive, there's a lot of like sweat equity that goes into that. So it makes it very high value for that type of work.
Hey, I'm lucky. I have a guy that's pretty affordable. I'm very lucky about that one.
Nice, good deal. Yeah, hang on to that one. Yeah, and it's just about it goes back to too is like, okay, so you can look at somebody who makes a ton of money. Somebody who's really rich, very wealthy, right? They're going to outsource a ton of things in their life. Nearly everything they're going to outsource. That's one of the things that wealth gives you is you can start to outsource. And you can do this at every level. You don't have to be wealthy, but any amount of money you have, you can start to outsource things to make yourself more efficient, to spend more time on things that actually will make you more money or more happy or whatever it is. Be careful what you automate, because I think specifically when it comes to like wealthy people or something, like people start to automate their family, their kids, things that are actually really important to you. So like there's more to life than just making things efficient so you can focus on one thing. Like make sure your values are in the right place, which I think is the only caveat here.
Yeah, yeah, that we cannot ignore that bit. We cannot ignore that bit. You have to have some non-negotiables, right? Um, I mean, for you and for me, a lot of what we do that drives our need to be productive is to increase the ability to have family time. So that's there's that why. It would be extremely stupid for us to be driving all this productivity and then forget about that thing we were trying to optimize for in the first place.
So
So
easy to do that too. So easy to do that.
yeah, yeah. Like I had a pretty like I had a conversation with my child where they were like, "Hey, if I wake up earlier, can we do this thing?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I need to adjust." Like, and then I made an adjustment. But like I just went off into productivity land, and I ended up losing sight of. I'm just glad that my kid had the ability to talk to me about that, so that I didn't let it run away from me. So so good on my kiddo. But yeah, like that's you have to be clear on that. You don't want to be automating the wrong things, and you need to make sure that you're spending the time where you're supposed to be spending the time if you have a why like that.
And we can move on to our last point to wrap this up, and that is start small and scale. So with anything, if you're new to this type of thinking, um, start small. So it goes all the way back to the first point, which is find what you should be automating in the first point, in the first place. So track your time or reflect on your activities from the day, start to identify where you can automate. And don't think this has to be that you sit down and you learn to code and you write a program so you can automate this thing, or you download this app that does all the thing for you, or you buy some smart home technology that automates these things. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Start small, just remove friction. And if you really start to see the benefit there, then you can start to scale up and you can start to add on, or you can just start to apply that in other areas of your life, right? Like if you just remove friction from the top 5 things in your life that you get frustrated doing, like the small incremental improvements for each one, like the amplified effect of those multiplying together, like life changing stuff. Like it really can just be these small wins.
Yeah, make the good things easier to do, make the bad things harder to do. And you should have systems in place that automate your decision making, that just slide it towards the good things, slide it away from the bad ones. Like that's the whole point of automation in the first place, is just making things efficient towards an end goal that makes sense. And we can do that for ourselves by doing that to make our decision making and our ability to take the right actions and have have the right priorities, right? So that's the whole point.
Yeah, I think that is a perfect point to wrap this episode up on. So thanks everybody for coming along for the ride. Uh, Give us a like, subscribe. That helps us out. Thank you all. We'll talk to you
All
later.
right, appreciate you.